Welcome everyone back to a bonus episode of No Talking Points in partnership with Compass Media. We're interviewing mayoral candidates once again today. Great to have Alex Lawson with us. Alex, thank you for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? It took a little bit here and there. I know you were dealing with some flooding stuff, and I know you went down and helped out with some of the candidate floodings. We weren't able to get you that week, but it's great to have you here now. Why don't we jump right into it and you tell us how bad it was down there and what your thoughts are around the candidate flood?
The candidate flooding has been handled absolutely atrociously. So I went down on the Monday to just kind of, tour around and see. I went down with work boots and work clothes in my truck to see if there were people that needed help or what the situation was down there. And it was way worse than you would have thought just from the media. The piles of people's lives at the end of their driveway. Nobody has an answer. When are things being picked up? What's happening? What am I supposed to do with all of this? The city wasn't communicating anything about the dangers of mold growth if you don't get rid of things. There's a lot of people that are well insured, but there's a lot of people that are insured and can't get a hold of their insurance company because, what is it now? We're getting 5,000 houses flooded. Yeah, there's a lot more that should have been done right off the bat. Like it wasn't until after I made a video calling for Sutcliffe to call the province, start the DREO process. It wasn't until later that day. This is a few days after the flood. I can't believe that this hadn't been automatic.
And why do you think that is? Like, I know when the city of Barrie had the big storm last year, the premier was there the next day with the mayor. Why do you think that is, that we got such slow response?
It's taken a while for us to realize the impact of it as well. Right. But if anybody was going to know, it would be the local leadership here. For the premier to know right away that, we have 5,000 basements flooding. I mean, look at how incrementally the number's grown. First, we were saying 2,000, then 3,500, now over 5,000. So if nobody's calling out to them right away, so that's probably the difference in these other situations. Yeah. They probably called them more promptly and said, hey, we've got an emergency here. We need you down here.
And 2 weeks later, is it getting any better? Have you been keeping track of what's going on?
The odd thing is it's hard to, get in touch with people and actually figure out how to help. But I know that I think it's Samaritan's Purse is involved down there now and Volunteer Ottawa. So just starting conversations with them. Sean Devine actually put out a Google form to sign up to volunteers. Put my name on that a few days ago and, talking to the groups to get involved. It's going to sound cheesy, but this isn't part of the campaign. This is when I do get that call, I'm going to tell the campaign team, hey, I'm offline for a while. I got to go down and do this because it's something we've always done. Constance Bay flooding. I was on the board of directors for West Carleton disaster relief for a while. And that was just, hearing that there's people having a hard time. We've got a company of able-bodied young men. Like we head down there and figure out who's in charge and where do we go? Not showing up for a photo op, just, all right, we're here. Where are we going now? Okay, bring sandbags there, fill sandbags, whatever it would be. But here it's hard to figure out who's running the show. I would have hoped that there'd be somebody from the city there to say, okay, yes, these people need help bringing things out of their basement. These people need help ripping out drywall, ripping out carpet. It's good to see that they're going towards it now. There's a lot of announcements made at a council meeting yesterday. They've engaged the Red Cross, but we're 2 weeks later now. It's just 2 weeks of people sitting around someone waiting for an insurance company. There was a post by Sean Devine the other day about somebody reached out to him to check on their mother, who was a senior citizen, and they were just living in a flooded house, didn't know what to do, couldn't deal with it themselves. And how many more examples of that are there?
Yeah, it is astounding that 2 weeks later, there's still so much unknown. It seems like, and information. How do you think we can solve some of these issues? Is there stuff we can do to mitigate the risk of flooding, or?
I mean, that's a conversation for engineers, right? And this is a conversation that we're trying to have, and we're trying to figure out who knows what's going on. I mean, is the infrastructure undersized, or has it not been maintained properly, and has it not been cleaned in a while? I've also heard from someone else, just anecdotally, right? So these are things that need to look into and confirm, but that some of the stormwater systems have flow restrictors on them so that it doesn't overwhelm the infrastructure and cause damage to it. But maybe now that, 1 in 200 year flood, how do you prepare for something that's a 1 in 200 year event? But these events are becoming far more frequent, right? We've had 1 in 50 year floods at Constance Bay, I think 3 times in the last decades. We need to start looking at things being more prepared, but rather than say, oh, well, we should have prevented the flooding like this, because how do you predict it? But now it's more, we need to have a plan in place for when something like this happens, whether it's a flood or a fire or, an extreme wind event. We need to have okay, this is what we do out of one. Like, this is what's happened. Within the first 12 hours, we should have key performance indicators and, things that criteria that we have to meet. Don't have a plan, you plan to fail, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as we talk about this, tell us a little bit about your background. I know we jumped right into the flooding, but like, you do have some experience in this area. I know you've always been a community volunteer. Tell viewers a little bit about who you are and why you want to be mayor of Ottawa.
How long is this podcast?
As long as you need it.
The short answer is, I've always been the type of person that I have a hard time looking at problems and not trying to be a part of the solution, right? It may be an overly ambitious sense of responsibility to my community, but that's always been who I am. So we were chatting earlier before we turned the cameras on. I grew up in Harrogate, that a lot of people already know, on Baycrest Drive, house that's not there anymore. There's a low income area. I grew up with a single mother on welfare. We used the Ottawa Food Bank. We used the snowsuit fund. And we went to if I was involved in any kind of sports, it was through the Boys and Girls Club or something like that, right? There wasn't more than money in the budget for these things. Rather than skip around all the different places in Ottawa I've lived, but there have been a few. Now, I live in Dunrobin. I have a business with 17 employees. We do around 130 houses a year, framing contractors, not developers. We can get into the differences a bit later. We're carpenters. But
you actually do work when you develop it.
Yeah, I swing a hammer. Yeah, rebuild the house. And manage all of the employees and the contractors and hit deadlines and balance a payroll and everything that goes into running a business. But between these two people, like who I grew up and who I am today, it's not a light switch, right? It's a long road, and I've been a lot of different people in the city of Ottawa, and I've walked a lot of different roads, wearing a lot of different pairs of shoes. And I think that's something unique that I'm bringing to this election, and maybe politics as a whole, that it's a lot of lived experiences. I've been a lot of different people in the city, and I know what they struggle with. I know what their concerns are, what's affecting them day to day. And I've said it a few times now. There's a lot of people that are saying, oh, it's a transit election, it's an affordability election, it's a housing election. None of those things. It's a quality of life election. It's all of those things, but not one specifically. It's really a quality of life election. To get into a bit, like you said, who I am, and as soon as I was able to help, we started with Capital Framers. We're always a part of helping out charities, or whether it's challenging other businesses to match our donations to the snowsuit fund, or delivering a check to the food bank, or it's helping out in Constance Bay, or it's pajama patrol, or a number of the things. I've really judged the success of the business on what we're able to do for the community, putting back the services that I used as a kid and making sure that they're available for other people, and how the people that are working for me are doing. How are their kids doing? Are they able to afford soccer lessons? Important things like this.
Yeah, certainly affordability is something that you hear a lot out there these days. City of Ottawa is no different than anywhere else. How would you address some of the issues around affordability in the city?
Well, there's a lot of different levels of government that have to work together, of course, right? So people said, well, how is a city going to do anything about affordability? One of the early pieces of policy that I put out was how to stop the slide into homelessness. And I think that's something that really needs to be looked at. We'll get into the homeless topic a bit more later on, but we need to look at how people are ending up there is a big part of what we need to look at. And it's not all drug addicts. There's a lot of gaps and a lot of cracks that people are falling through in the system. But one of the points on the towards affordability and towards housing was to cut development charges in half. An announcement that the leadership in the city made yesterday. Wow, because the provincial and federal governments, they're going to cover the cost of the infrastructure. This was an announcement they made a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And we're just hearing it now. I mean, look at again, I'm getting away from affordability, but I'll work my way back. The transit policy that we put out. Like, look at announcements that they've made on transit in the last few weeks, and then go back a couple of weeks before that and look at our transit policy. And look at how maybe it means that they're talking to the same people, which is good. And we're finally getting some movement here. But on affordability, there's the housing piece, absolutely. But we need to look beyond home ownership, because that is far from a lot of people. And we need to look at making it viable for companies to actually build ground-oriented units. If we just keep bragging about the number of condos we're standing up in Ottawa, 1-bedroom apartments, that's not what people in Ottawa want. Right? We need that 3-bedroom ground-oriented product. We need to make the land available for it. We need to make it easier for people to build it. But if we get away from housing, I mean, there's the affordability of the transit system, but
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big reliability issue. Absolutely. I don't think buck a ride is a responsible thing to do. Even if the O train's being taken over and we've got some more funding there, we need to look at where the holes are and where we've got a lot of, basically we're pouring water into a leaky bucket in a lot of places, and it's just leaking everywhere. It's not getting, the money's not getting where we actually need it to go. But beyond that as well, I mean, we need to encourage more competition in our marketplace, that by encouraging small businesses in Ottawa, to start up. And even looking as far as a grocery store, like there are minimum size requirements, minimum parking lot, the size of a parking lot restriction for grocery stores in parts of the city. So we need to encourage small business growth. We need to encourage more competition coming to our marketplace. And that's going to be something that we've got some policies surrounding that, and to encourage more employment for our, we've got an unemployment crisis, especially with youth in the city right now, that needs to be addressed. And that's going to play into affordability. I mean, if you don't have a good job, you're not affording much.
Yeah, and certainly the cost of things is going up. But I know I hear on Bank Street, the businesses that are going through all of the repaving and reconstruction of Bank Street, like it is very hard on a lot of those businesses. And they're all small businesses, right? How do we do a better job with some of this stuff when it comes to the building of our roads, when it comes to, I mean, obviously it has something to do with congestion, but it seems like it takes forever. That is it.
Yeah, Bank and Heron, Bank
Yeah,
to up to Alta Vista down to Billings Bridge.
yeah, like
The Riverside, it's been torn up for an extremely long time.
it seems like years. I don't know the exact date, but it seems like years.
Yeah, well, I mean, you live here. You see
Being
it
a
more often than I
businessman
do.
there, it's got to be incredibly hard. Like, how do we make sure?
Well, being a business and being a resident.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure, as mayor, is there a way to make sure that we keep these projects on schedule and on time?
Well, we're always going to have to upgrade infrastructure, and it is going to take some time, but we need to look at how we can do it, like you said, as quickly as we can to limit the impact on the community. I think that's something that needs to be looked at in the procurement process, and we need to hold people accountable. And we need to hold the businesses that are doing the work accountable. Sometimes you'll have a delay on the job. And I'm not saying that this is the case with Bank Street. I don't know specifically what's been going on there. Well, a couple of things actually that I'll bring up, but we've had instances with work on the highway, again, provincial, but these instances happen all over the city as well, where a job will be started and then there'll be a supply chain issue and they can't get, some material to finish the job for maybe it's a couple of weeks, maybe it's a couple of months, maybe it's a few days. And the jobs are light, right? You drive by the pylons and you see nobody working there. And it's incredibly frustrating because you know that it added 20 minutes to your commute. And the pylons are still there and that lane is still closed, but there's nobody working anywhere near it. And we need to get those lanes open as fast as possible. If there's a delay, open it up, close it up again when they're doing the work. But let's actually have real plans. Let's have more shifts going on in the evening. We need to limit the impact on people's lives as much as we need to upgrade the infrastructure, because these small businesses, when they shut down, those small businesses, they don't stand back up.
Yeah.
But that's a mom and pop shop that was doing their best and they lost it through no fault of their own, and people lost their jobs. It's devastating to our local economy because we took too long on a road project. And I know that part of the Bank Street that's been taking so long has been NCC, I believe. I heard from a counselor out there that it was a conversation with the NCC about a 2-foot strip of grass that was on their property that needed to be sidewalk, and it took months and months to actually get a response from them. Now I think we need to be
NBC is the worst landlord in the city. I can say that as a former tenant of the NCC.
Yeah, well, you know what? A lot of the time, somebody's going to be the worst something that they could be, and
It shouldn't be the government.
it shouldn't be. But you know, whether it's the NCC or it's a private business or it's the city or it's the feds or it's the province that we want to blame for our issues, actually come to the table, understand their priorities and actually work with them. I mean, we'll push them for what we need, but let's work with them. Let's bring some synergy to the city of Ottawa, where all levels of government are working together for the community.
Talking about development and redevelopment, Lansdowne 2.0. What's your thoughts? How would you have voted on Lansdowne 2.0?
How would I have voted on Lansdowne 3.0? So I would have said no. I would have voted no. But you know what? There's a lot that isn't known about Lansdowne 2.0 and the process towards it and the procurement, and even council was finding things out after the media. There's a lot of people that knew things before council. And when you talk to a lot of councillors that are not going to be named that voted yes on Lansdowne, you talk to them, you said, so voted yes on Lansdowne. Yeah. What'd you get for it? Right. That was what it was. It was Mark Sutcliffe going around and talking to councillors and saying, hey, I need to push this through. So what's your ward need? And that's not how a city should be operating. And whether or not that stadium needed to be completely replaced right now, that's another matter up for debate that we can look into. But I mean, the papers have been signed and the project's going ahead. So we're not going to spend millions fighting it now. Let's make sure that it's responsible, that it's not tying up the community as it's getting built. But I don't think that it was a responsible way to spend money. I mean, anybody that's managing their own household budget knows that when your car is in dire need of a brake job, or they're going to fall off and the control arms are busted and you need to put $3,000 into the front end, sometimes you delay the vacation. And we need to be looking at the basics instead of vanity projects right now.
Are you concerned about the city's finances at this point in time?
Absolutely. Who's not concerned about the city's finances? We need to see, is it a revenue problem or is it a spending problem? We need to get in and actually see where most of our money's going and where it's getting lost. And obviously a question for a mayoral candidate, a good question, important question, one that I'd be asking too, is what are you going to do with property taxes? You're going to promise me you're going to lower them? You're going to freeze them? You're going to raise them? What are you going to do? How can I responsibly have an answer for that right now? We need to actually get in and see what's going on. We need to see, like I mentioned earlier, we need to see where the buckets are leaking. We're 3 years in and we have a new budget where he's saying, we heard your priorities. We're going to put this much more into this much more into here. Creative budget allocations aren't going to get us out of the problem that we're in Ottawa today. If you're going to put another $200 million towards roads, I need to know that that's going to be more potholes that are getting filled, not that we're going to be paying more per pothole. Yeah. We need to look at all of our spending. OC Transpo, even talking to some of the, higher ups in OC Transpo, would $50 million help you? No, we need policy change. We need changes in management. I've heard good things about the new general manager actually, but there's a lot of things that money isn't going to fix. And we need to actually get down to the management level and we need to start having some actual accountability within our municipal government.
But when you talk about accountability and management, changing some of the management, it makes sense to me coming from the private sector. But the only real tool that has been given to mayors to do that is strong mayor powers. Would you use strong mayor powers if you needed to be able to make some of these changes?
Well, I don't think the only thing available to you is strong mayor powers, right? You can have conversations. You can have a look at what staff are doing, where at management levels, what are the decisions being made, who's been making these decisions, who's been in the system for quite a while. And, you can have an influence that way. When you're elected mayor, you've been given a mandate from the people of Ottawa, and making sure that city staff understand that mandate, I think is very important. But that's not, that's the very pointed question. Would you use strong mayor powers? Back to what I just mentioned, if the city has given me a mandate and we need to move forward on important things, if something's getting ground up in council and we're not going to, it's another tool at your disposal. It's definitely not going to be the first thing to reach for. But if it's becoming the last resort, then I'm not ruling it out. I wouldn't tell you even a specific instance where I'd say, yes, if this doesn't go through, I'm using strong mayor powers, but I'm not going to throw it off the table.
Yeah. Return to work is clearly not a municipal policy. but nonetheless, the Mayor Suckluk weighed in on the return to work, which is, I think RTW4 just took place here in beginning of July. What's your thoughts on return to work policy, and how would you have addressed it as mayor?
Yeah, so it's not our policy, and the federal government, they want their workers back to the office. There's not a whole lot that we can do about that, but we need to be able to get them there, and our infrastructure just can't handle it anymore. For whatever reason, we've got a transit system that doesn't work. I mean, for whatever reason, pretty fulsome start to our transit plan up on votealex.ca that I'm sure you've read. Yeah, we need a transit system that can actually get them there, and we need traffic that flows appropriately. And we used to move that many people. Why can't we now? And I think when the mayor was saying that we needed the RTO, the full RTO was for the businesses downtown. But what about all of the businesses in the suburbs now that have come to expect that they have people that are home a little earlier? I'm not saying that people are going and getting their nails done in the middle of the day, but when they finish their workday and they don't have an hour and a half commute, they can start frequenting the businesses that have popped up in the suburbs. I mean, they're going to lose a lot of their clientele for the downtown core. And is people not being in the office the biggest problem for the downtown core right now and businesses? Or is it the crime? And is it what the downtown core has become while we haven't been looking, when we've just been, and whatever we've been doing? Look at downtown now. And my campaign office is in Chinatown. I was there the first day setting up the internet. 15 minutes after I walked in, I looked out and there were people smoking crack on the porch. Now,
Wow.
if this was a business where I was expecting customers, they'd cross the street. They'd walk on by. We've got businesses on Somerset, small mom and pop shops, restaurants. They're dealing with theft, dealing with people openly doing drugs on their doorstep. I mean, this is what's killing businesses. So whether or not we get people back to working in the core, is that going to be the be all end all for these businesses? I don't think it will.
So how do we resolve some of those issues around homelessness and addictions from the city's perspective?
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do in these areas. And we are going to be having a full policy coming out on that. But just to give you an idea of, some of the people that I've been talking to develop these policies, one of the first conversations with Alliance and Homelessness, the Youth Services Bureau. I met with CEO of the Shepherds of Good Hope, the Ottawa Mission, Options Housing. Did a ride along with the neighborhood resource team in the market. I've been out with Safe Off the Streets outreach groups, talking to a few different outreach groups. I've been to Sandy Hill Community Center. I've been to the Somerset Community Health Center. Yeah, I've been actually talking with all of the people where policy meets reality to see what's going on. How do we actually start to move this?
Yeah.
And they are extremely frustrated. In a lot of places, these are people that are doing good work. There's a lot of people that are, that understand how people have become homeless in the first place. That's a big thing to look at. It's going to be an affordability thing, but it's also going to be, a lot of it's going to be bureaucratic. A lot of it's going to be, issues with our housing system in general. And Ottawa community housing, we need to take a look at a lot of it. But the way that we've been looking at safe supply in Ottawa, we've been doing it completely wrong. I'm not saying that I don't believe in harm reduction.
Yeah.
Harm reduction is absolutely important until somebody's ready to get themselves cleaned up. If harm reduction isn't a pathway to recovery, then we're just keeping people sick and we're perpetuating the problem. I mean, we need actual key performance indicators here. We need measurable results. Tell me how many more people are addicted to opioids or have gone off an addiction to opioids or an addiction to crack in the city. We don't have these numbers.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not being measured.
Wow. I mean, how can you know you're doing better or worse at something if you're not measuring it?
You can't. I think we're just measuring how many times we give a dose of naloxone. So we need to actually look at properly measuring things, seeing what our impact has been, value for what we're spending as well. I mean, genuinely providing people help and helping them stand back up on their feet so that they don't need us. The ones that do need ongoing support, they need to have ongoing support. But we need to know also, what are we spending and how is it being effective? It's going to be the same with any issue you ask me about. We need to actually get down onto the ground. And I've been having the conversations with people where policy meets reality. What's working? What isn't? Where are the gaps? when you talk to these outreach groups, when you talk to the nonprofit groups that are involved in the homeless sector, and then you talk about how we've spent more on homelessness in the last 3 years than ever before in Ottawa. I think last I heard was 200 million, 300 million. They're saying, where is it? Where is the money? We need to make sure that we're not just perpetuating a misery industry and we're actually helping people.
It seems like in talking to you and others that we have a transparency issue as well as some other concerns here. How would do you agree with that, and how would you fix it at City Hall?
No, I absolutely agree with that. And transparency needs to go a long way. I think we need a lot more transparency and a lot more agility. Not everything's going to fit into the tight little boxes that we have right now. And I think procurement is going to be a big part of that. I mean, there's absolute budget transparency, but I think in the procurement process, it's going to be very important as well. The sunshine list exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you think the number should still be 100,000 with inflation, that's not what we're discussing right now, but that's public money being spent. So public money being spent on a person I can see, but on a contract I can't. We need to open that up a lot more, not just in a report 2 years later. In real time, it won't be that difficult to actually just show where we're spending all of our money. A lot like the sunshine list, but if you've got a contract with the City of Ottawa, you should be able to look it up easily. If there's work going on at the corner of your street, you should easily be able to look up what company's doing it, what are they doing, how much is it costing us, and when is it going to be complete. And back to the affordability issue, once we start bringing this type of level of transparency to procurement, to everything that we're spending money on, if we're spending anything on it, you should know what it is. If it's on a consultant or a job, if it's on potholes being filled, if it's curbs, whatever it is, you need to be able to see it. Not just for yourself as a taxpayer to have peace of mind, but it's going to bring competition as well, right? If you can see that, oh, okay, that's how much they're paying for that sidewalk, I could do it for way cheaper and still do a good job. I mean, it's
a great concept. Can we actually implement that? Like, I mean,
why can't we?
We talked about the Bank Street. Neither one of us, we just know that it's been there forever being worked on. Like, it would be great to know why and how much.
There's a lot. The report is there somewhere if you dig and dig and dig. It needs to be a lot easier for people to get this information. We're at an Open Ottawa. Let's make it easy. You could even actually work it into Geo Ottawa.
Really?
Right? If you just click on this project, it could lead us to. It's going to be a bit of a process, absolutely. But to say that we can't is ridiculous. That plays into the agility piece.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit about crime. Obviously, the market seems like the epicenter of some of the issues that we've had. ETV just had an article out on the Byward market redevelopment and the $40+ million that's proposed to be spent on it. It seems like both vendors and local residents are against it. Is this our path to another Lansdowne situation? I mean, much smaller, but or where do you sit on that? How do we fix some of these things?
I mean, it's worth mentioning that I think 2 people were stabbed in the last week downtown in the Byward Market and on Regent Street. This is a problem that needs to be fixed. What's interesting is talking to vendors and to businesses in the downtown core and in the Byward Market that don't feel like they have a say at all. So when the Byward Market District Authority was created, the business owners in the market and the residents in the market lost their say. Now, they're not very happy about this. I mean, they just keep imposing more parking restrictions, making it harder for customers to actually get there. When was the last time you went to the market?
Don't even start on the parking restrictions.
We need to start on the parking restrictions. We need to know
like you
parking
can
restrictions.
Barely get your car parked and somebody's there to give you a ticket. It's crazy right now. And we have so little parking downtown, right? So, I mean, it's going to pose other problems on the return to work.
Yeah, and less. Yeah, people are paying $30 a day if they can find a spot. If they're there early enough to get a spot, it's costing them at least $30 a day. That's wild. And I mean, people that are just going down and visiting there's not a lot of options there. If you're driving a pickup truck, forget it.
More of a problem in Dunrobin than the downtown, probably, the pickup truck.
There's lots of places to park in Dunrobin with a pickup truck.
Just a couple more topics. Policing. How would you all this kind of comes together? How do you How do you deal with it? How do you work with the police to make sure that we have the ability to have safer streets? Is that the answer? What's the answer?
I think a lot of it is going to be working with the police. I met with Chief Stubbs a couple of months ago. Very nice guy, and he doesn't mince words, right? We've been chronically underfunded on policing in Ottawa. He was telling me that they can't investigate fraud under $25,000 right now.
Really?
Yeah. That's pretty surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want
Big number.
I want fraud at 500 to be investigated. Like if an old lady gets ripped off for $500, it should be looked into. But under 25,000, we just don't have the resources to look into it. And that's the long and the short of it. You know how many police officers are on the road? What the minimum number is in Ottawa? Picture the size of Ottawa. Picture that map you've probably seen. They fit Calgary and Montreal and Toronto and all of it into there. How many police for 1 million people and that much space?
It's on the road at any one time. There's got to be 100.
No, it's 42.
Really?
Yeah. 42 is the minimum number of police on the road in Ottawa at any given time.
I like those odds if I'm a criminal.
The odds if you're a criminal are fantastic. I mean, this is, I did the ride along with the neighborhood resource team in the market. I've sat down with people that have been on the drug squad for 15 years. I've met with other neighborhood resource teams. I've met with the chief of police, and they're struggling to keep up. Like they're not happy with it. Even the chief was saying, we're not providing a very good service if we can't look into things under $25,000. But it's all over the place. I mean, we've got known crack houses that have been operating for a decade, and we don't have the resources to shut them down. We need to take the drugs away, and we need to talk to the police and say, okay, what can we do to take the drugs away? And let's stop looking at the little guy for weeks, hoping he's going to lead to someone else. Let's take the little guy. Let's make it inconvenient to sell drugs here. And that's how we're going to help our vulnerable population as well. Sadly, we do have a lot of people addicted to narcotics, like heavy drugs in this city, and we've got the people that are supplying them. So how can we do anything about this? You're telling me that a crack addict has no trouble finding a hit, but we can't find the guy that's selling it. We need to do a lot more. And it's probably going to be a funding issue, maybe different strategies, but also look at what we've seen since the election was called. Now we've got police walking the market. We've got more visible policing in a lot of these communities. It's sad that it took this long.
Would you look at, is it a recruitment issue? Is it a funding issue? Is it all the above?
Well, I mean, to speak to that right now and say it's 100% this would be difficult. Yeah. But, it's recruitment, it's funding. It's a lot of different things. I'm looking forward to, I've heard great things about our current chief. Speaking with officers, they said that he took over a bit of a system with quite a few problems, and he's been moving in a good direction. I've heard great things, even speaking with a justice of the peace that's very happy with Chief Stubbs. So I'm excited to actually sit down with him again in the next couple of months, tell him a little bit more about what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing, and come up with a full plan to actually, let's take the drugs away and let's make Ottawa somewhere that you feel safe.
Yeah.
Somewhere that you are safe.
Certainly, as I'm sure you know, and you've probably been following the tracking in our Compass Media polling that we've been doing with liaison strategies. You seem to be having a bit of a meteoric rise with certainly different aspects of the city. Come from low single digits up into 20-23% range, which is a great rise. How do you keep moving? What's the secret to your campaign so far, and how do you continue to move forward? And what's the biggest part? Is it what you're hearing on the ground?
There's absolutely no secret, right? And I think the thing to growing in the polls is really just getting out there and meeting with more people and talking to more people. And whether that's on social media or it's actually at the doors or it's through earned media with podcasts. So thanks again for having me here. But if you talk to anybody I'm not the politician, right? I'm not the typical politician, and this isn't really a campaign, right? I'm somebody like everybody else, and it's more of a movement. I think people are seeing that, because if you talk to anybody that's not politically engaged, what are they going to tell you when you bring up a politician? They're going to say, "Oh, they don't care about me," or "They don't understand me." And these are the real things. I mean, this is how I felt about politics for a long time: is they don't care, they don't understand. So showing people that you're actually taking the time to hear them and to understand them. They appreciate that. That's what they want in a politician. They want somebody that understands them, where their life isn't just a line item. They've been where you are today, and they understand and they know, the path forward. And I think that's what's been resonating with people.
Excellent. For is I'm sure you know, we have one question from viewers for each candidate.
Okay.
So we're at that point now.
Before we get to that point, let me just add something else to that.
Please.
And so that just actually understanding people, and just tell you a bit about, we're doing canvassing completely differently. General politicians with a canvas, you're going to take a flyer and you're going to knock on the door and you're going to, here's my flyer and here's what I have to say about this.
I hate
doing
that.
Yeah, it sucks but it's also like, comms in politics is a dirty word. It's all one-sided, right? This is what we're telling people. And what about listening to people? So when we're door knocking right now, we're not dropping flyers. All of our volunteers have notebooks in hand and a business card so that people have my contact information. We're going to the doors and we're saying, hey, how do you feel about your city right now? And we're hearing the same things, of course, all over the place, whether it's a transit system, people don't feel like they're getting the value for their money, their roads are falling apart, they don't feel safe. It's all of these things that you'd expect, but, everybody has their own little story about why they feel like that's happening. We're collecting those stories. We're listening to people and, we're able to speak to their concerns as well. We didn't just hand them a flyer with a quick few points. And it's, go to the website and you'll see what I've said about that so far. Follow along. But also, here's my phone number. Give me a call. Phone number's on the website too. It's on the Facebook page. I'm really easy to get in touch with. I actually want to hear this.
What's your phone number?
613-981-8881.
All right.
Anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, give me a call. I do want to hear from you.
That's excellent. That is excellent. Our last question, and I thank you for taking time to come in. It's been a very interesting conversation, as it always is with all of our candidates. Our question that was sent in, Mayor Sutcliffe got in a bit of a flag controversy in 2024. Found himself reversing the flag raising of the Israeli flag at City Hall, and then he changed it back again. And then once again here, a couple weeks ago for the American Independence Day, he raised the American flag, which caused a little bit of a stir with certain groups. How would you, as mayor, deal with the raising of flags of other countries?
I genuinely believe that multiculturalism is one of our biggest strengths in Ottawa. The cultural mosaic that we have here is fantastic. Whether it's for the type of cuisine that you like, or hearing a different perspective on something, or just we have so many different opinions from different places of the world, and where things are done differently. Sometimes where things are done better. And I think that bringing more synergy to our communities and in the multicultural aspect is fantastic. We've got a world that is absolutely divided right now, but we need to have our community and all of the different cultures in Ottawa united. Everybody needs to feel safe here. Safe to practice their religion, safe to go to their schools. Everybody deserves to feel safe, and we can all we can live together. But specifically on the topic of flags, I think we should only be flying the city's flag, the province's flag, and the Canadian flag.
Anything else you want to make sure that we get out to viewers before we get you back here in September?
Sometimes when you're on the spot and you got a camera pointing at you, you forget, something that you wanted to get out there. But I'm just going to repeat that I want to hear from people. So whether you think that I've missed the mark on something, or you think that something isn't on my radar, maybe, or you agree with me, I want to hear no matter what. So again, phone number 613-981-8881. VoteAlex.ca, there's a nice contact form there. People can reach out with messages directly on Instagram, Facebook. But the biggest thing is that I want to hear everybody's story. I want to hear what their concerns are. And I want to hear, if they've got an idea for a solution somewhere that somebody else hasn't brought up, I want to hear that too. So I think that's the main thing that I want to get out here in the podcast is I'm available. Talk on me.
Well, thank you very much for taking time to come in.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Good luck on the campaign trail.